This is Star Talk. I'm your host, Neil deGrasse Tyson, your personal astrophysicist. And today, my special guest, and I really mean special guest, is my 90-year-old mother, Toni Tyson. Mom, look at me like that.
Well, first of all, I'm 90 plus.
90 plus.
That's just for openers. And as you know, when you talk to little children, they say, I'm 5.5, and I'm 6.5, and I'm 7.5. And after you get to a certain age, you no longer give your age. But when you're 90, you say you're 90.5.
90.5. You put getting those fractions in
That's right, going on to 91.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for agreeing to do this. I had to twist your arm a little bit.
You had to do that, I agree. And I want you to know that I hope that I hope I'm still around when you decide to air it.
Okay.
If not, you can just do it as a tribute to me.
Okay. We'll just get the editors to go in fast mode for this.
Okay.
Right? I was interested in having this interview because you've lived through so much, having been born in 1929.
28.
20. Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay. 1928.
Right.
And so a year before the market crashed. So you were a child in the 1930s. What do you remember from that time? A child in New York City.
There's just so much to remember, but I certainly don't remember the crash. And we were poor, but I didn't.
Oh, you didn't lose it in the stock market. Your stock holdings didn't
I'm
drop.
sure that no one in our family played the stock market. We could hardly speak English, much less play this
Your
way.
portfolio was unaffected.
That is correct.
You didn't have a portfolio.
Absolutely. And all I remember was that now I think as I look back, I realize how poor we were, but I didn't realize we were poor. We didn't have television to remind us that we were poor. I only knew the only part of the chicken I knew was the wing, because one chicken was spread to the whole family, and then of course it'd be soup and other stuff.
Soup made from the carcass of the chicken.
That is correct.
Right.
But I'm a first-generation mainland-born Puerto Riqueña. My parents are born in Arecibo, Puerto Rico, and my siblings and my parents are all deceased now, but they were all born in Arecibo, where the radio telescope is, by the way.
The radio telescope.
And you have visited that. And so
You
have I.
took me to visit it.
That's right.
Yes.
You were just a kid at that time, weren't you?
Yeah.
It had no significance to me at all.
Oh,
Okay. But I know it meant something to you.
So you've told me, I don't remember the details. Both of your parents were dead
Yeah,
by the time you were what age?
4.
4. So you have no memory of either of them.
No, I don't. And so I was brought up by 2 aunts, and they too were born in Arecibo. And I didn't speak English very well until I went to public school. And then I had a hell of a time because here I was. My name was Sunchita Feliciano. What kind of name is that? Along with everybody else's name, who was Jim Brown and so-and-so.
Susie Smith. And
That's
all that, yeah.
That's right. So Sunchita Feliciano had long black hair and this widow's peak that came down to my eyes. And so I eventually learned.
How long was your hair?
Very long. I would be very fashionable.
Butt level.
All the way down my back. My long hair would have been very fashionable today, except it would be gray. And then in addition to that, it was like one of the horse's tails that my daughter owns. So that's about it.
So when did you meet Dad?
Oh, man, that's a long time ago. We lived in the same tenement in Harlem, in Spanish Harlem, 217 West 111th Street. And we used
I
to
only
play
remembered my own addresses. How do you remember? But
don't
why
ask
is
me,
that a thing
don't
to
ask
remember?
me my present address because I won't remember that. 'Cause
Where you live now.
I have long-term memory, but not short-term memory. At any rate, we lived in the same building, and then he went off with his family when he was about 11 or 12. And I never saw him again until I was about 20 or 21, through a mutual friend of ours, a very dear friend of mine, Evelyn King. And we re-met and started dating, and the rest is history. And as a result of that, you and Stephen and Lynn were a byproduct, and here I am.
Oh, just a byproduct.
That's right. And so here I am, and here you are.
Back in Spanish Harlem, there's a point where you only knew Spanish.
That is correct.
And then, but that was not encouraged for you to sort of fit in. So what happened to your Spanish?
Well, there was no such thing as English as a second language, so I just learned English. Okay. I just listened to everything, and I've always been a radio buff. And I listened to the radio a lot, and I learned a lot.
Back then, that was the thing, the radio.
Of course, that was the only
Everybody
thing.
had a radio, no matter how poor you
Oh,
were.
yes, and it was those arch-shaped radios
In the living room.
in the living room.
Piece of furniture.
And you would sit and listen to that. And I would. I'd listen to it for hours and repeat some of the words.
Okay.
And that's how I learned some of my English.
But you weren't encouraged to sustain the Spanish.
No, by no
This
means.
multiculturalism
No, you're
is not a
supposed to, you're
thing.
supposed to assimilate and all that kind of jazz. That was a thing at that time.
Right. So my earliest memories are in Castle Hill housing projects
That is
over
correct.
in the East Bronx.
Right.
So you guys were living there. So all housing projects are for people who need some kind of rent assistance.
Fixed income.
Fixed income,
Right.
right, of some kind.
Correct.
And so they have low-income housing projects and mid-income housing projects
Correct.
in that world.
Right.
And we were in the mid-income housing projects.
That is correct.
Right. And what was it? So did you have goals? One day we'll move out of here to somewhere else?
Well, the main thing was to move. That was the name of the game, just to move. And we spent about 2 years there. And then we had to move because we needed additional space.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we moved to the Bronx, to
Riverdale.
Yeah. We moved because my aunt, my beloved aunt who raised me, who still did not speak English that well, was going to move with us. So we had a room for her.
She was going to move in with us.
She was going to move in with
Yeah.
us. And then when my aunt died, my mother-in-law moved in with us. So we've always had an older person in our house. And as a result, I think the three of you, Neil, Stephen, and Lynn, really appreciated having older people around and have always been very kind. For instance, I remember so distinctly crossing the street with the three of you. And I don't know whether it was you or Stephen told us to stop. Wait a minute, there's a blind person across the street. I'm going to help. 11 or 12 years old. That I'd never forgotten that. I was very moved. So we waited for him while he went over to get this person, and we taught them how to deal with a blind person.
Mm-hmm.
You don't lead them. You let the person put their hands on your shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
and then let them follow you. And you step on go up the step first, so they'll know there's a step.
Mm-hmm.
All those things come back to me.
So the three of us now,
Mm-hmm.
Lynn, me, Stephen, and we're separated by 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So that's tidy enough to manage, I think, because the older one then helps with the younger one. That's enough of a time gap there.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any philosophy? You and Dad have any philosophy of child rearing? Of course, you had the books.
No, and forget the books.
What?
Okay. Particularly Spock and all that
So, yeah,
stuff.
yeah, Dr. Spock?
Was it Spock?
Yeah, Dr. Spock. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, living in New York City is like living in the middle of a learning laboratory. Everything is there, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Anything your child wants to do is there. For instance, Lynn fell in love with horses at a very early age. She became an urban mounted ranger in Central Park as a result of this experience. And then we had Stephen, who was an artist in
You
the
had him
day
first,
he was
the
born.
oldest, yeah.
And he used to live at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and take classes there. And, of course, at the Modern Museum of Art. And then you had Neil, who we introduced to the planetarium at a very early age. And that was a fantastic experience for him.
The Hayden Planetarium.
Hayden Planetarium. He used to go to evening classes there. And as a result of being a New York kid, they could take public transportation. All they needed was a nickel.
So Dad, as sociology is his thing, he's working for the city. You by prior agreement, rather than go to college after high school, you got married and you became a homemaker
That is correct.
by agreement.
Agreement.
What was the nature of that agreement?
The nature of that agreement was they were to stay home with the children to make sure that they're taken care of. In addition to that, you must remember we had an older person living with us.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the three of you were in three different schools and three different parts of the city taking public transportation, I was always concerned about the three of you getting home safely. At any rate, shortly after Stephen went off to college, that's when I went back to school. I worked at Fordham University, got my undergraduate degree. Then went
At Fordham?
At Fordham, then got my
As an adult.
Oh yes,
getting
oh, yes.
the undergraduate
oh, yes.
degree.
Oh, yes. So after I got my bachelor's, I went to Columbia University and got my master's in gerontology, services to the elderly. And from there, I started my career in working with the elderly population. I directed programs in Queens. I was also worked for the Brookdale Center on Aging, which was a research and program run by Hunter College.
Do you think all this exposure you had to aging people and tending to them that sensitized you to this need in
not
society?
only that, and it's a cultural thing too. Taking care of older people has always been a part of my family history.
Okay. So here you are with very significant investment of energy for the aging. There was Dad out there concerned about youth in the ghetto, as of course inner city was known back then. And you have this son called Neil, who his brain is nowhere in any of those places, is just thinking about the universe. Was that just weird to you?
No, it was not. If that's what you wanted to do, that's what you did. And if you wanted to go to the planetarium, here's a dime, take the bus. Mm-hmm. It was not weird at all. All three of you went in the direction that you wanted to go in. And for that, I was thankful.
So did you have any, what was your plan as parents raising children other than keeping us alive? Oh, yeah, sorry. You kept us alive and you exposed us to everything in the city.
That's right.
That was the plan?
The great plan was that hopefully that as a result of being exposed to this, what I call learning laboratory of New York, that you choose your professions and pursue it separately. Everybody goes their own different directions.
Mm-hmm. So you didn't have any urge for us to become gerontologists?
No. Or sociologists. No. As a matter of fact, homework time at home was quite a feat because I had to keep the three of you separate so you wouldn't talk. And you would be in one place fooling around with the lights and fixing the lights, and so that when you walk in the room, the lights came on with music. That was your pastime.
So, if I remember correctly, Lynn was in the Brownies and Girl Scouts, and Steve was in the Boy Scouts, but I wasn't in either. So
no, because
did you make some judgment?
You played baseball. You played Little League.
I was in the Little League.
Yeah.
Right, they weren't. They didn't do that.
No, they didn't do
right.
that, but you did the Little League.
So just a matter of having an activity.
That is correct. I made sure you were busy all the time.
Anything you would have done differently, given the wisdom of 90 years?
No, I have no regrets. Mm-hmm. I have them, and if I did, it's too late anyhow. So just get on with life, okay? So people who relive their lives and say, "Oh, I should have done this. I should have done this. Come on, please, just get on with it. Take care of the here and now. Just do the best you can now. Mm-hmm. Now is the time to do the best you can."
Can you reflect on the state of race today relative to back then?
It's worse. It's worse than I've ever seen.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's scary. And of course, you hear everything. It gets to the point where sometimes I can't even watch television because it's one racial attack after the other. Mm-hmm. I mean, the attack on the synagogue, what's happening to the Hasidic Jews, and what's happening to blacks in some areas. It's horrendous. Mm-hmm. And you're so aware of it. It's there. It's constant.
And the news cycle is 24/7.
24 hours a day. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. So I think it's worse because I know more about it now. I know things that are happening across the world. Open school week at school. I go to Lynn's class. And I come into class and I'm waving to her and she's waving to me. And she's so pleased that her mother is there. And so I listen to all the little speeches that the little kids give. And we get ready to leave and we use the back door. So we leave the back door and I've got Lynn's hand. And we walk. She had this big afro. The afros, they had afros like you wouldn't believe. Mm-hmm. And not only the afros.
They were in style back then.
Yes, but they also had dog hair in it, which meant you had half gray afros. No. And when you comb the afros, half the dog hairs would come out, okay, on the comb. And then sometime your hair would be on the dog. No. So, at any rate, we're getting ready to leave the classroom. I've got Lynn's hand, holding her hand, leaving the classroom. Teacher looks at me and says, "Whose mother are you?"
Okay, she's darker than you.
That was the wrong thing to say to me. I told Lynn to stand back. I'll be right with her. We went out in the hall. I backed this poor woman up against the wall. And by the time I was finished with her, she didn't know what to say. Mm-hmm. I reported her to the principal. The insensitivity of saying that in front of a child. Mm-hmm. The sheer insensitivity. Lynn didn't know what happened. Okay, but whose mother are you? And I'm holding the kid's hand. Anyway, that was one of the experiences.
So I did some things growing up that I didn't know how you might have viewed them, whether you just thought it was weird. Like when I took over the bathroom and turned it into a dark room to make
Well,
photographs.
fortunately, we had more than one bathroom.
Okay.
Okay, so that was not a problem.
Okay.
Okay, and the only time, and then not only that, you had a sign outside the door.
Right.
It's when you were developing, nobody could use it, so we had a complete
Yeah,
bathroom.
the sign said, keep the door closed. I don't want the dark to leak out.
Right.
That's what it said.
So that was never a problem.
Okay. You were very supportive of my interests.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was supportive
Without forcing it. It was there.
It was
and then-
natural. If that's what you wanted to do, that was fine by us.
But then you also had some insights. I didn't know that you can get books from the remainder table. That's a thing that you introduced me to,
Right.
like for $1.
Right. We would go to the store and buy all these used books for you. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, that lamp that you have there,
Oh, on my desk. Yeah.
the Saturn lamp.
Yeah.
We went shopping for some part.
Oh, the parts. Yeah. All the hardware that's in the Saturn. Oh, you remember
right.
that?
We went to about 4 or 5 different stores.
Because that lamp was in shop class, and everyone is making a prefabbed design
Right.
from a file drawer.
Right.
And I said, I'm not going to make that. I
Right.
got my own ideas.
Right,
So I
right.
drew it, but then I needed my own hardware.
Right.
And so then of course I couldn't drive in 7th grade, but you took me around.
Yeah, we went to about 3 or 4 different stores to find those pieces.
Right.
Yeah.
How did you maintain hope throughout all of that?
On a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And through my religion, I'm like practicing Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Through my religion, there's always hope.
Well, that's very, it's easy to give up hope.
I know,
If you
I
have-
know, I know, I know, I know.
Are you as practicing today as ever before?
I'm a la carte.
A la carte?
Yes.
Catholic a la carte.
Right.
Okay, ashes and palms, as they say. Is that right? Ash Wednesday, Palm Sunday.
Yeah.
So you still participate in the Christian
Oh, yes.
rituals,
Oh, yes.
right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So for me, as a scientist, I was getting skeptical around age 9, 10, 11.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just weird hearing someone tell me under what conditions you go to hell, under
Mm.
what conditions you. So did it concern you that I was drifting?
No,
that
I
way?
just said be quiet and listen. That's all. And we'd still go to Mass, and you'd go to Mass.
Yeah, I still
And you
go.
made your first communion, made your confirmation.
Right. I still go. I mean, I had no,
Yeah,
it is what it is.
So
It's
that's
not-
what it was.
Right.
I said, just stay awake, please.
Stay awake.
By the way, when you
Because some of
go
those
to-
Catholic masses are very sleepy affairs.
I know, but that's where I think you loved. That's where I think you got your love of candles from. You used to love to look at the candles. And I remember so distinctly when you guys used to go to day camp, and the first day of day camp, and I would be waiting at the bus, and you wouldn't get off the bus, and Neil was not on the bus. I said, "Where's my child? He went on this bus this morning." So the driver would get up and find you sleeping in the back of the bus. So every day you were the last one off the bus because you were sleeping.
I'm a good sleeper.
Once or twice, I didn't realize it when we were kneeling at church. You'd stretch out in the back seat in the pew and fall asleep, and these shoes were sticking up in the air like this. I said, "Get up."
When did you start learning from the three of us, from Lynn, me, and Steve? Was there some point, say, oh, my kids are old enough, now they have life experience that informs you in your life? Or just never?
Well, when you went off to your different careers and left home, we would talk all the time on the telephone, and you tell me what you were doing, and I tell you what we're doing, and we'd always get together for holidays, major events, Thanksgiving and Christmas, major events. We'd have all extended relatives and all these tables all over the place, and that's the way it was. And to this day, we still have these family gatherings for major holiday.
Except now you're just counting off who's died the year
That's
before.
right. Who's missing from the table?
That's
And whenever I give thanks at these large events, I remember the person who was there last year.
Just
who's
the year
no longer,
before.
Right. And particularly, of course, Dad.
right. Okay, so we went to our social media fan base and asked if any of them had questions for us.
Okay.
And we did that this morning.
Did you really?
Yes. Well, they did. We got
Okay.
people who do this.
Okay.
Okay. So I have the list right here.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Okay. This question's for me. This is from Natalia Rosa, one of our Patreon supporters. There's a network of people who donate monthly to participate in some in what this universe is that we're creating and help support the program. So it's to me. What do you appreciate about your mother in guiding you through your early years? Did she ever dissuade you chasing certain dreams, or was she always encouraging? And does she have mildly embarrassing tales to share of young Neil? I think we would all enjoy that. Lots of love to Mama Tyson.
Well, isn't that sweet? That's very nice. That's very, very nice.
Good. Do you have an embarrassing?
No.
None that you would tell, or just none?
No, I would shut you up immediately when you started getting to saying things that are inappropriate. We were in an elevator once in Skyview, or I don't know, someplace, and an Indian guy got on with his turban on, and you pulled my arm. He said, "What's wrong with his head?"
Oh, because I thought it was bandages, maybe.
That's right.
Oh.
But no, I was never embarrassed by anything.
Okay. So what you appreciate most about your mother in guiding you through your early years, I would say I didn't know this at the time. I didn't know to appreciate it at the time, but that every conversation, every conflict had foundations in rational discussion. Mm-hmm. You did this. Why did you do this? And what was your intent? And here's the cause. This is not a good outcome. Do it differently next time. It wasn't just do this because I say. Mm-hmm. Because where does that lead you? And I wonder if that promoted my early sense of curiosity. Because if something happens in a particular way, you want to know the reason for it. Mm-hmm. But if your whole life is do this because I'm the adult and I know better and you don't do it, then it's a life of following commands rather than a life of exploring what it is one should do and why. Mm-hmm. So where did you and Dad get this from? Because we visit friends, parents, and I see the parents. It's like, whoa, I'm glad I don't live in this house. Whoa. Well, the father would be sitting at the end of the table back in the day when fathers were, patriarchs, and no one would talk back to the father, and no one would, yes, sir, and no, sir. And I'm thinking, where's the conversation? He just said something that wasn't quite right. Who's going to challenge that? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I kept it to myself because I'm visiting other families. But in our family, everybody could say anything to anybody, basically.
As long as you weren't insulting them.
And insulting, right. I mean, still respectful, but not.
Of course.
If you said something that wasn't quite right, I'm coming back at you. Mm-hmm. And then we resolved that. Mm-hmm. So I appreciated that.
In a low tone of voice.
Yeah.
No one ever raised their voice.
Right. Plus, no one ever carried grudges.
That's for sure. You leave that table loving each other.
Right.
No matter how many bochinches, bochinches is a Puerto Rican word for confusion and stuff. Mm-hmm. No matter how many bochinches were at the table, you leave it at the table and go forth.
And no, you didn't dissuade anything at all. You and Dad, whatever we did, it was let's explore this. Mm-hmm. And so that was always fun. Mm-hmm. And you'd even take it another step. Mm-hmm. Steps that we didn't know was a next step to take.
Right, that's important.
Right, because you had some sense of how societies works and agencies work. Right. And when I was attending classes at the Hayden Planetarium in middle school, and I took some advanced class for adults. I was the youngest kid in the class, and I'd ask questions. I think I was more curious than the adults.
Right.
Because they were just there. I think they just maybe wanted to learn a few things. But this is like, my gosh, this is the universe. Aren't you excited? As excited as I am? I was like 12 or something.
Well, when you were in junior high school.
Right.
And you were going on to high school. And you were, from junior high school, it had been recommended that you take advanced physics at Science High School.
Oh, wait, let me get to that in a minute.
Oh, okay.
So in this episode, I'm taking a class. And at the end, this man comes up to me who's in the class and handed me his business card.
Right.
And I don't know anything about business cards. What is this? I don't know. Mm-hmm. And then I took it home and showed you. And you said, he's director of education at the Explorers Club. Mm-hmm. And we should call this and find out if there are opportunities. I would have known to do that, but you guys are very plugged into.
Oh, I called that guy immediately, and
right, and that's when I got a scholarship, and then I went to Africa to view a total eclipse, and
because of that
scholarship.
And I to this day, I would like to thank him again.
Yeah, Vernon Gray.
You were not able to locate him.
I tried. Later on, I don't know what happened.
I would like to thank him profusely.
We can put his name. Vernon Gray was
the doors that he opened for you was fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think he liked the questions I asked.
Right.
Like one of them was, if nothing comes out of a black hole, the light can't come out because it travels the speed of light, and it's not fast enough to escape a black hole. Gravity moves at the speed of light. So I asked him, how does gravity get out of a black hole? So the teacher didn't have an answer to that, but I think it impressed this other guy. Okay, another question. This is from Will J. Will J. He's a Patreon member. As a kid, I, quote, accidentally made a little chlorine gas with an electrolysis experiment at home. Did Neil ever do anything similarly salty or kind of dangerous that you know of?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, I was not the chemist,
Yeah.
so I didn't create any fires or burn holes in the carpet or anything like that.
Right.
I was mostly just
You
optics
just tied up the bathroom, that's all.
and with the dark room.
Right.
Right. Okay. So no, yeah, I didn't destroy anything.
Right.
I don't think.
No, you didn't.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So no. So there. Okay. To Neil's mother. Do you remember the trip to the Hayden Planetarium when Neil was 9? Because I speak of this trip. What was he like before and after? I imagine the transformation must have been incredible to witness.
You made no difference. You were happy. You loved it. And we made sure you went back again. This is after you went outside the museum and started climbing the statue of Teddy Roosevelt with the lions or whatever is out there.
The lions, that's the library. Everybody's got statues out front. Yeah, we got Teddy. We got Teddy out front.
Right. No, it was just another New York experience. This is all part of the Learning Lab experiment.
So you would know to go back because I was excited
Of
by
course,
it.
of course.
So that was a focusing
Absolutely.
of repeated experience.
Exactly.
Because otherwise we'd go to the zoo or the aquarium or whatever else,
right.
and then it doesn't focus, but now you had an occasion to focus it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, because it wasn't so much an instantaneous thing. It was like, wow, this universe is pretty good. I wonder how to continue to do this.
Right.
And then the binoculars and books, and so it's a slow burn, but it's very real.
And your first telescope.
First telescope, which was 2 years after this.
Right.
Right. So you both decided I should have a telescope?
Well, you were talking about a telescope, and you started making money by walking dogs.
Right.
And we said, if you get enough money for the telescope, we'll help you buy it. So you got about 75% of the money, and we put the balance in, and we went up. We found out where to go. Went all the way up to New Haven, Connecticut.
Well, okay, that was my second telescope.
Oh.
The first telescope was the one that Dad helped me assemble up in Lexington.
Yes.
That one you guys bought, and I didn't. That was a surprise to me.
Yeah.
That was my 12th birthday.
Yeah, we got that at Sears.
Yeah, at Sears you did. Yeah, you remembered that. It was like $50 telescope.
Right.
But that was enough. I can see the rings of Saturn and the craters on the moon and the moons of Jupiter. I mean, there's a lot going on in that. And I outgrew it within 2 years or so. And that's when I had the money from walking dogs.
Right.
Yeah, that was the glory days of dog walking. You know why? Because you didn't have to clean up after the dog. You just walk and there's just poop everywhere. Last question from Patreon. So Neil, could you theoretically go back in time and accidentally stop your mother from meeting your father, thus you never being born at all? Then again, if you're never born at all, well then how would you go back and stop your mother from meeting your father?
Tell him I don't. That's just. I can't handle that.
That's Jonathan Wax, Patreon member.
You tell Mr. Wax I can't handle that.
You can't.
I'm dealing with the here and now. I'm trying to make it from one day to the next. Trying to put my feet on the floor every morning, and at 91 it ain't easy. That's why I'm hobbling around with a cane so I won't fall.
Okay. So Jonathan, my mother don't play that. Well, okay, Mom. Well, thank you for agreeing to this interview.
You're quite welcome, and thank you, folks, too.
Thanking our production staff here.
I'm interested in seeing the final cut.
Okay. How about one last thing? I promise. For new parents out there, of which there's a generation every day, is there any 91 years of parenting wisdom you can just share?
Well, I can tell you this much. I feel sorry for parents of today because all you see, even toddlers walking around with handheld objects in their hand, and everybody's clicking and everybody's clicking and they're not talking to each other. They're talking away from each other. They can be in the same room corresponding with each other with these doggone handheld devices. And I think a stop should be put to it in the home, particularly at meal times and particularly in schools, because they're embarrassing each other. They're hurting each other. It's a very painful experience of some of these kids, and I think it's a tragedy.
Okay, so that's what not to do.
That's right.
Can you have advice of what to do?
Yes, listen to educational programs such as Star Talk and such as Nova. Go back to the old ways of doing things. Yes, they can fool around with their handhelds, but not 100% of the time. They walk up and down with them.
Often parents, if they have kids who are accomplished, they're very proud and they'll sort of talk about them and that's my boy, that's my daughter, that's my thing. Yeah. You never really behave that way.
Never, ever.
For us.
That's right.
Like I do something really great and say, oh, that's nice. You know, you're late for dinner. So I didn't view it as negative. I just viewed it as I'm following my interests,
right.
And I'm not doing it to get praise.
Right.
And nor did you offer praise.
Well, yeah, sometimes I praised you for specific things, particularly sometimes how you handle people. I'm always concerned about how you handle people, how you talk to them. But yes, I have praised you.
No, but in general, I don't remember the household being one where you or Dad were continuously praising us.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Okay. Was there some thinking behind that?
No, we just let you do your own thing, and we never talked about it.
Why?
Because for us, it was natural. If you're on a prescribed course and you're sticking to it, then we're happy about that, and we leave it alone.
Uh-huh.
And another thing, too, sometimes I'm in a group situation, and towards the end of the conversation, somebody might say to me, are you related to Neil Tyson? This is the end of the conversation. And then I say, yes, I'm his mother. Then everybody gets, oh. We were on a cruise once, and we met two people. We spent a lot of time with them, a whole lot of time with them.
This is one of these retirement cruises?
Yeah.
Where okay.
And we spent a lot of time with this couple. And on the last day, we were out, and there were stars in the sky, and I said, oh, my son would love to see this. And she turned around, she says, you're related to Neil Tyson, you must be. And I thought she was going to faint dead away. But all the time we were there, I never mentioned your name.
No, I in retrospect, that's a good thing.
Yes, I think so too.
Just historically, because what it means is the interest is sort of genuinely nurtured from within. It's not, I'm not doing it because I'm after your praise.
Right, right.
And how many people are out there where everything they're doing is just so that their parents can say nice things about them?
Right.
But that was never even on the table.
Right.
It just wasn't really there. Okay, so that being said, of all the things I've done, is there something that you think most about or most highly
your
about?
Your books.
My books.
I think your books will be a part of your legacy.
Oh, okay.
Programs, can fade away, but your books, I think, will carry on.
Oh, okay.
Particularly in foreign languages. I think that's very important.
Yeah. They've enjoyed many translations.
Yes. So I think that's very important, and I'm very pleased about that.
And in my very latest book, Letters from an Astrophysicist,
right,
it's dedicated to you and Dad.
Oh, that's nice.
I didn't know if you knew that.
That's nice. No, I didn't.
And the dedication to you was, it was a thank you for first teaching me how to say what I mean when I write.
Right.
And I remembered we would write letters together to achieve certain things.
Yeah.
It could be anything, a product failure, and you had to go back and get a refund or whatever, and it required a letter to the customer service. There was an entire way that words would go to a page to communicate an idea, an intent, in search of a conclusion. And I got all that from you.
Yeah.
So where did you get it from?
I don't know. It was just there.
Was it a lifetime of complaining to the world when stuff didn't go the way
Well, I
it
do
needed?
write good complaint letters. There's no two ways about it. It's who, what, why, when, and where. And that's the end of that.
So I dedicated my next book to you.
Okay.
Letters from an Astrophysicist. To you and Dad.
Okay.
And so to my mother, who first taught me how to write with meaning and impact. And to my father, whose life experience navigating people, places, and things conferred upon me the necessary wisdom to navigate a life of my own.
Oh, nice. That's nice, Neil. That's very nice. Dad would have liked that very much. Yeah. That's nice.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Mom.
Thank you, Neil, son.
So this has been a very, very, very special edition of Star Talk. And I want to thank my special, special guest, Mom.
I agree.
For agreeing to sit down and be grilled by her son for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, I bid you to keep looking up.